Now, it says the majority of those executions took place in the United States, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Iran. Basically all the countries that we would traditionally expect to see executions in. And it says that 80% of the executions that take place worldwide take place in those countries. However, Amnesty International says that China keeps executions a state secret, and thus reliable numbers are unavailable. They do, however, claim that there's thousands of them. The Supreme People's Court, which Amnesty International admits, has issued legal guidelines aimed at ensuring greater procedural protections in death penalty cases. Well, obviously, given these numbers, China would be on the very top, but since there's no actual physical reliable numbers to go by, it still remains an unknown. Despite this, there is a trend in decreasing executions now that 80% occur only in 3 countries. Now, in addition to this, because you know I was going to bring it up, it says that the DPRK carries out public executions, which they do. That's not a secret. But then the report also says that they routinely execute people for minor offenses that even in their law wouldn't call for execution. Of course, this claim isn't actually backed up by anything. But they claim they have no information, but they know this to be true, which is very strange. The most common reason that somebody is publicly executed in the DPRK is for human trafficking, people who smuggle women out of the country for sex purposes. In fact, recent reports do admit that 8 out of 10 women who are trafficked out of the DPRK end up in sex slavery. And frankly, my position is, if you're a sex trafficker, you should be shot dead. I got no love for sex traffickers whatsoever. Something that I find very interesting about the Amnesty International report is that if this is supposed to be about global executions, there's some information about the United States that it seems to have left out, and has left this out about some other countries too, but primarily the United States, because it says, the report says it's the only country in the Americas that still has the death penalty. Now, in the United States, the death penalty is heavily biased against black people and people of color, African Americans. They suffer from extraordinarily higher execution rates than whites. There's a very clear racial bias here. I mean, this is even shown from studies that African Americans get stiffer punishments for the same crimes that white people commit. So there is truly a mountain of proof that it is really biased, and that executions and other harsh punishments are heavily biased against the poor in the United States, just as it would be for any capitalist country. Meanwhile, we have the same media crying overseas that Kim Jong-un had his uncle executed. Of course, it was Kim Jong-un orders and not the fact that he was basically trying to coup the government, which means even people at the very top, even family of the guy running the country, are not immune from harsh punishments, the same ones that in the West they wouldn't get. So I think that is very revealing as well. It's also important to note extrajudicial killings. In the United States, vigilantes and police kill a black person every 28 hours. Now, this is an astronomically high number. Almost every single day, a black person in America is killed either by a vigilante or by a cop. These are extrajudicial killings that are not actually recorded because the state didn't officially do them, yet these killings are insanely common. It's also important to point out that the United States seems to have a bit of a fancy for sending minors to death. In fact, the United States has 2,500 minors sitting waiting to be killed. There's 2,500 minors that are awaiting the death penalty right now. And we find this very interesting when we consider that the United States is the only country other than South Sudan and Somalia, great bastions of freedom, that have refused to sign the UN UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. I mean, South Sudan and Somalia, that's, in terms of rights towards children, that's not 2 countries you really want to be associated with. And this is just some of the information that's been left out when actually looking at executions globally. Does China execute thousands of people a year? Yeah, very probably. It very likely does. In fact, I would bet a lot of money that they really do. That information is not made public. Yet what they don't do is go around executing minors like the United States. There's a tremendous amount of crime that are coming out from the United States. It's supposedly the beacon of freedom and democracy that we're all supposed to look up to and supposed to want to be like. But yet these greatest inhumanities are being committed by that same power. Brutally biased, racially biased police forces, execution rates are all coming from this supposed bastion of freedom. And I think it's important that we keep these things in mind when we're looking at executions globally. Thank you for watching. Please comment and rate the video. If you liked it, hit subscribe or check out some of these other great videos. If you wish, share it on social media. While you're at it, why don't you follow me on Twitter? And if you got time, go on over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.